Hey, and welcome back to the Cashmere Couch. This is Tulasi. If you're new here, then hello, welcome. Join us on the couch as we discuss the magic and the mayhem that is motherhood. Now, usually I post videos every Sunday. There was only once that I failed to post on a Sunday because life happened. I also post videos on TikTok as well. Haven't been very active this past week, particularly because life happened. But I usually post videos on things like breastfeeding, on what to expect when you have kids at home, what to expect in your fourth trimester, which again, not a lot of people talk about. I usually talk about things pertaining to pregnancy and motherhood, things that isn't very well discussed, which I feel need to be said and heard because there are a lot of us seeking answers to questions that actually echo in many other mothers' heads. I do also talk about what happens to you, the changes in your body, physically, emotionally, and things like that. And on that note, today I was thinking I didn't want to do yet another breastfeeding video because I think we have a lot of it. I do have more content on breastfeeding coming up, but I thought we would take a break, and I was in a period of self-reflection, and I asked myself what it is that I have been feeling really the past few days, weeks. It's always the same thing. I'm always tired. I am always low in energy. And so when I was thinking about all this, I thought about why it only happens so badly to women. You have men who get married, they have kids, and they seem to be kind of okay. And it got me thinking that we really need to consider what's happening with our bodies and our health, because there is so much that's happening in today's world with regards to aging. A lot of problems that used to be old people's problems are now becoming the common problems of a much younger generation. I am a nurse. I'm also a trainer. I train and develop curriculum for healthcare causes here in Singapore. And I have realized that there is a trend in the aging population. So it's not so much because of age per se that people are having medical conditions. These days, diabetes, for one, is a very common issue that people in their 30s are getting. And it has made me think a lot about my own health and how things have changed for me ever since I became a mom. And I was just researching a lot, especially this past week. I don't know what triggered it, but I was researching a lot. I did a whole deep dive into the internet, and I picked up some very useful information, and I thought that I would create a new wellness series where we discuss women's health. Again, these are things that I feel are not being said enough. I feel like these are things that we should know as soon as possible. And when we make those changes consciously, mindfully, things actually change for the better. And to stick to the topic of just feeling low energy and just feeling lethargic all the time, it made me think about rest and sleep. What does that mean for you as a mother? And also, right, when you're a mother, what kind of hormones or hormonal changes are happening in our bodies? How does sleep affect the hormones that are supposed to give us energy? Or is it because a certain hormone is overactive that we actually feel low in energy? I was really wondering about what hormones have got to do with our energy levels. And so that's exactly what we are going to delve into today. So grab a drink if you have to, get comfortable, and let's go. First of all, why do we have such poor quality of sleep? Now, I can speak on behalf of mothers, and I can also speak on behalf of someone who is trying to live in the first world. So there are some things that we call first world problems. One of the biggest issues as a population we're facing is the food options that we have presented to us on a daily basis. It's in our faces. We don't even step out of the house to get food anymore. All you need is a phone, an internet connection, and you have food right at your doorstep. It's delivered. That little bit of walking out of your house, of changing and getting your butt off of the couch, is something that is not even happening these days. And if I were to say two things that is causing issues with our health for first world populations, especially the younger generation, it's just these two things. It's the diet, and it's also movement, or the lack of movement. When I say first world problems, most of us work in corporate companies, in the corporate line. And what we do, we sit in front of computers for about 8 hours. And then, nowadays we work from home. It's like my workplace and my rest place is right next to each other. Everything just bleeds into each other. There is no formal routine. There is no set, I need to do this kind of structure to our lives anymore. And when that happens, there is no urgent need for you to get out and get movement. When you're so focused on work, you're so stressed out, there is no need for you to focus on your nutrition. No one is listening to their bodies. And when your body is screaming for help, sometimes it's kind of a little bit late. But from what I've learned overall in all my teachings, all my classes, and the things that I've picked up, it's never too late. So if you're in a point in time in life right now where you're struggling with sleep, you're struggling with, energy levels, then listen up. As a population, our biggest problem is food and exercise. And when I say exercise, it's just movement that I'm talking about. And I feel like I should do a separate video on this to address the problem that we have as a population. But today specifically, I want to talk about the low energy levels that we have as mothers in particular. Now, if you are freshly postpartum or your child is like a few years old, it doesn't matter. Hormones still play a very big role in the way we feel, the things that happen to our physical bodies when we look at ourselves in the mirror, the things that are happening inside that is causing these things to happen on the outside. All of these things are governed by hormones, especially when you are a woman, especially when you're menstruating, especially when you have just given birth, especially when you are in your perimenopause stage. Now, like I said, I'm going to turn this into a series because there's just so much to say. Today's focus is going to be on sleep and hormones, right? And what it means when, for instance, your hair just starts falling out. All of that, they have to do with hormones, okay? So I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible for your understanding. Why do we have disturbed sleep as mothers? Now, obviously, the answer is because we have kids. We're no longer that carefree soul that we used to be when we were single, where we weren't responsible for nobody, right? Now you have ideally a whole family to take care of. So you're thinking about what to cook the next day. You're thinking about getting the kids to go to sleep on time. So you have invented this bedtime routine, which can be more than just for one child, right? So you have multiple children. That's going to add on to your chaos at night. And how did you used to fall asleep? Like really? You were either really tired and then you just, or you always did some nice bedtime routine for yourself to unwind. And what's happening today? Well, you're running after the kids. You are planning for tomorrow. You need to wake up early in the morning because you don't have work, but you have to send your kid into school. You are scrolling on your phone because you're so tired that you can't sleep. Now, that's actually a problem, which we're going to discuss about in a while. So many reasons, right? Having multiple children, you are a working mom. That also, can cause problems with sleep. You can't rest because you're thinking about the presentation that you have tomorrow. You also need to get your child ready. You're thinking about what you're going to wear. There is just, and breakfast. And what's going to happen when you come back home. You have to prepare for the next day and things like that. There's just so much going on in our minds, right? So we have disturbed sleep. Our sleep cycles are not exactly the most restful. it is not the most rested kind of sleep. And that in itself can cause issues with your rest. Like, you could sleep for 8 hours straight, but not actually feel well rested when you wake up in the morning. Do you get what I mean? You have that. You also could be having disturbed sleep if you have a breastfeeding child like me. Every few hours she gets up and I am sleeping faced to the other side where I'm really comfortable, right? And then she wakes up, she starts screaming. I'm afraid that she's going to wake the house up because I have another child. I have a dog. I have a husband who works shifts and needs his rest as well. And so I immediately wake up, and just to shush her, I stuff my nipple in her mouth. And now I'm in this really awkward position because I was a lot more comfortable on this side, and that makes me not go back to sleep immediately. And then by the time she's done, I'm not sleepy anymore. Like, this just happened the other day, right? So she had a blocked nose, and then so she couldn't drink and breathe through her nose at the same time. So she was wailing and yada yada. And in the middle of the night, she soiled her diapers. So I do have a helper, but she gets her rest because I need her in the morning, right? And then I had to get up off of the bed. I was so sleepy. I had to get off of the bed, go change her diapers, go throw the diapers, the dirty one, and then, come back to bed. And I was like half awake. I thought I could go back to sleep, but no, she wanted to continue to breastfeed. And then that lasted for another hour. I was completely awake by then. And that was at about 5-ish a.m. And then she was done, and she flipped over to the other side, and I was like, yes. And then I turned to my comfortable side, which is usually away from her. And then the alarm rang for my husband to wake up. And so I woke up, and then he woke up and he started getting ready, and I'm dozing back. And then the next thing I know, my dog is waking me up because he wants to go outside and pee. Just talking about it, man, that's exhausting on its own. Like, anyway, this is sometimes why I walk around looking like a zombie. I have no interest in putting a full face of makeup on when I'm not feeling the best. I prefer to sleep in for that extra 10 to 15 minutes rather than waking up a little bit earlier just to get my face on. So I don't wear makeup to work, also because I don't like a full face of makeup the whole day. Like, that's just me. But I don't do anything to make myself look more awake. And I do get comments from my students sometimes at work like, oh, you look really tired. And I'm like, oh, I don't want people to tell me that, but that's the truth. And I don't even recognize that I look tired anymore because this is how I look like on a daily basis. Here's the next thing that we need to really talk about, and this is the more important part, right? Like, that you don't have proper rest. Fine. So what are we going to do about it? Before that, you need to find out what's actually happening inside of your bodies on the hormonal level, so that some things that seem completely unrelated, like hair fall, like weight gain, what has that got to do with sleep? Well, it's got a lot to do with the hormones that get affected because you don't have proper sleep and rest. First up on the hormones list, cortisol. I know you've heard of it before. This is your stress hormone, okay? Cortisol is produced when your body goes through stress. When your body perceives that you are undergoing stress, cortisol is released. The production of cortisol increases to allow you to stay alert so that you get into that mode of fight or flight response. Okay, this is called your parasympathetic nervous response or something like that. Oh, crap. But basically, when you face danger, your body just stiffens up, either for you to fight or to flee. Okay, and this is a stress response in your body that has been in our body since like our earliest ancestors. It helped when we were cavemen, if you believe in that. It helped to run away from danger when we used to go hunt or the men when they used to go hunt. When there is a danger, your body increases its cortisol levels to help you to stay alert. There are also other things that are going on. You get adrenaline that's pumping, that gives you all the blood rush that your muscles require, because your muscles are going to be ready for action, right? And so blood is the transportation vessel for oxygen. And so the cells in your muscles, they require oxygen to just bloat up, and that's why you get flushed when you're really angry. That's your body responding to stress. So you get adrenaline, and then you get cortisol really helps you to wake up and just go like perceive, like to take in all forms of danger. Like that's when you're the most awake. That is not the state that we need our bodies to be in when we're trying to sleep. The problem with not getting enough sleep is that you end up producing a lot of cortisol, and the cortisol is going to tell your body to stay awake. So it's like this crazy cycle. It disrupts your circadian rhythm, where you are not even going to care that it's day or night, and you're just like awake. And it actually worsens when you use your phone. So you're tired, and then you're not getting enough rest, so your body thinks that is undergoing stress, and then your cortisol levels go up, and then you stay awake, and then you're scrolling through your phone, and then you're not sleeping some more, and then you get what I mean. That's the cycle. So that's a problem. Other things that cortisol levels can affect are your mood, obviously, your mood, and also things like fertility. So if you're trying for the next baby, you're stressed out and things like that, thinking about that, worrying about that, and your cortisol levels are already high because your body is going through what is known as perceived stress, because you're already not getting proper rest, and it's just going to worsen the whole cycle. Another thing that happens when your cortisol levels are continuously high is that your metabolism is affected. So if you're wondering why you're not losing weight, you're trying to fast, you're trying to exercise, nothing's happening, this is one of the hormones that is causing this problem. So when your metabolism is affected, you need to remember metabolism is not just about what happens when your body is awake, but when you're supposed to be resting, you also have metabolic activities that happen at a cellular level. And when these get affected, your metabolism overall slows down. And it's not supposed to at a very early age, unfortunately, because we're living in a state of constant stress, to be really honest. You're stressed about work, you're stressed about, you're just worrying, and your worries can also be perceived stress for your body. And that's going to bring up your cortisol levels as well. So it's overall just not good. You need to rest. You need to calm down. You need to feel at peace. And that's not easy when you have kids. I know, trust me. But you need to do something about it. The second hormone that we're interested in here is called progesterone. And to make it really easy for you to understand, progesterone is the mothering hormone. It's about nurturing. It is about calm, deep sense of love, and all those things that you get from a mom if your childhood was normal. So you feel safe. And so progesterone in your body is supposed to make you feel safe. Progesterone is at its peak if you are menstruating in your last phase before your menstrual phase, which is known as the luteal phase. And I know a lot of us don't really pay attention to our periods, but trust me when I say this, and this is going to be the next part of this series where I talk about cycle syncing. I know a lot of people talk about it, but then do you really know what cycle syncing is? We'll find out in the next video. But progesterone is at its peak at the luteal phase, which is before your menstrual phase, like I just said. And what it does is that it makes you feel safe, it makes you feel calm, and it makes you feel like you're good. It is the opposite of the stress hormone. And when I say opposite, it makes you feel the opposite, right? And so when progesterone is not at the levels that it should be in your body, when you get stressed, progesterone depletes drastically, and it has to be at a certain level for everything that is related to progesterone to go smoothly. So for instance, during your luteal phase, what's happening in your body? You are trying to prepare. Every month this happens, right? After ovulation, your body is preparing for a potential baby. So progesterone is at its peak just before the menstrual phase to try and get everything nice and cushiony inside. And that's when you crave for comfort. That's when you ask for sugar, for chocolate, all those kind of cravings come in. That's the really, I want to feel really good kind of phase. Now, progesterone, when depleted, causes problems like PMS, like really crazy PMS. It causes anxiety. So it's always the opposite of what the hormone is meant to do for you. When that hormone drops, it puts you on a level of anxiety. You don't feel safe. You constantly, are craving like dopamine to try and make yourself happier. Progesterone also, when it dips, it affects your milk supply. So when progesterone is missing, right, you don't feel safe, therefore you're not the happiest. When you're not happy, your dopamine, oxytocin levels are all going down. These are also hormones that are very important for milk production. So if you're worried about your supply, you're worried, your body thinks that there is stress, your cortisol levels go up, progesterone levels come down, and then it's this cycle that you're stuck in. People who have menstrual issues like irregular cycles, you have PCOS, I think that's what they call it. All of these issues are caused because of an imbalance of progesterone. So you got to fix it in order to try and see some form of calm in your cycles. Another pro-hormone is prolactin. So prolactin is a hormone that increases naturally when you are resting. And this is particularly something that directly creates milk for you. It is in direct relation to milk production. So oxytocin is like the happy hormone that sets you in the mood for milk supply to increase, but prolactin is the one that actually makes it happen, if that makes sense. So prolactin is released a lot at night, and especially when you're complaining of breastfeeding in the middle of the night and all that with the skin to skin contact, that is actually your body's way of coping with the fact that you're not getting enough rest. Because when you are well rested, your prolactin production is really good and the milk just flows, right? But when you're getting disrupted sleep, and this in nature is normal, the baby keeps waking you up, your body already knows this and it's preparing for it. When you have skin to skin contact in the middle of the night, your prolactin is maintained. But if you don't, let's say you're waking up and you're trying to pump and you are giving baby bottle milk or like expressed milk in a bottle, then that's not really going to help your prolactin levels. Just saying. Not that you should definitely do skin to skin contact. We all know that's not easy. Not everyone has that. So earlier I was saying that sleep can affect the way you gain weight. So how does that work? Insulin is a hormone that, and I'm really good at this because I give classes on this. Insulin is a hormone that gets released by the pancreas, and it works like a key. Every cell in your body, for it to function normally, it needs a few nutrients. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrients and electrolytes like, glucose, sodium, and things like that. Glucose is supposed to be inside your cell and not left outside in your blood. If you have high sugar levels in your blood, then that's bad. And from insulin resistance, that slowly turns into diabetes. Okay? Now, if your cell is going to accept the glucose in, you need to have a key. This key is known as insulin. And when you develop insulin resistance for a number of reasons, one of which is when you are having disturbed sleep, you are unable to produce good quality keys or a good quantity of keys. Either one. When the keys have issues, the cells have issues in drawing the glucose inside of them, where they are supposed to be, where they're supposed to be burned and used as energy. The blood, again, is not supposed to have the sugar waiting outside of the cells. That's not supposed to happen. And so when you are insulin resistant, or you have an increase in insulin resistance. So when the glucose is not able to get drawn into the cell because of the problem with the keys, then the glucose is left outside in the blood. That causes, long term, it's known as diabetes. But in the short term, what happens is that all of this extra glucose is stored as fats. Long story short, that's as simple as it gets. It gets stored as fats, and these fats go surround themselves around your organs, and most of the vital organs that you have in your body are at the abdomen. So this is why basically you gain weight, and you find it so difficult, especially at the abdominal region, you find it so difficult to lose that weight because you're not sleeping well enough. That's just it. Just try sleeping more, and then, the weight is going to go off. Of course, don't binge eat and do all those other stuff. Now, it's really easy for me to come out here and say, just get more sleep, get better rest. In reality, we know as mothers that is not the easiest thing that happens. So what do we do about it? Mothers are miracle workers, but I'm not expecting you to perform a miracle where you're able to get a complete 8 hours of beautiful, deep sleep just like that. Break it down, get smaller mercies, if you will, going your way. So first of all, one suggestion, nap. It is not for fun that our elders have said, sleep when the baby sleeps. I know you have a million other things to do when your baby sleeps. Who else is going to get the kitchen all cleared up? Who's going to put the toys away? Who's going to clean up, if you're sleeping when the baby sleeps? I get it. I totally do. But if your health is important to you, then do try and fit in at least one nap in a day, like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Try your level best to include sleep and proper rest when you can, because you already know now how it is affecting your body. Sometimes you just have to call the village in. I know we're living in an age and time where grandparents are living their own life, and that's good. Sometimes you just need to call in help. So if your mom doesn't live with you, if I know it's not their problem, but sometimes you need that help. Don't be shy. Don't try to be a superhero. You need to take it. When you travel on a plane, what do they always tell you? They always tell you to put the oxygen mask on for yourself before you attend to your child, because you need to stay alive if you're going to give that kid some chance of survival, right? And that's exactly what we want to remember over here. You want to take care of your own health so you don't burn out, you don't go crazy. And, postpartum blues are a real thing. If you are freshly postpartum and you are running on stress, you have crazy hormonal imbalance, then that's not good for your child. If you think that by not resting, not sleeping when the baby sleeps because you have a million other things to do, then you are going to be able to be the best version of yourself as a mom. That's not how it works. So I'm just here to remind you about that. Get a helper to come in to do the dishes and clean up in the house while you care for your baby and while you sleep when baby sleeps. If your husband is around, your partner is around, get that person to come in somehow. I know it's not easy when you breastfeed, but hey, when the child naps, you get like 10 minutes. Get your husband or your partner to do the dishes. It's fine. If they're not going to, lock them out of the house or something. Don't fight with them. You know why? Because your cortisol levels are going to go up again. So do something else. If you have to call in your mother-in-law, you have to call in your mother just for like half an hour. Today, I just really need half an hour, or I'm not going to be able to function tomorrow like a normal human being. Do it. Get whatever help you need. And if you still tell me that, there's no one to help me, absolutely, I don't live with family, then get a helper who can come in and do the housework for you while you rest. If that's also not possible, then live in a dump. It's fine. Your sleep is more important for you to be awake and aware of what your baby is doing at the end of the day than you just operating at 40%, and the house gonna be a mess anyway. And I cannot stress this enough. Self-care. You need that. You need girlfriends. But sometimes I do understand that if your girlfriends are also mothers, it's just not easy to come together. So, if you can, talk on the phone while you get things done. That should help a little bit at least. I don't have girlfriends. Fine. Be your own best friend. Do some self-care. I should too. I know. I try. I do though. I get myself like scrub sometimes at night, and I just disappear from the whole battalion for a while. 10 10 minutes, like quick self-care. I am noticing that my skin is really dry, especially the past few weeks, and I have been making it a point to do my oiling. So I oil my face, I oil my skin, my body, everything. I have been making it a point like to just get it done. It doesn't matter if the oil gets everywhere. It doesn't matter if your kids touch your face after that. Just do what you can within your power. If just lighting a candle in the toilet, in the bathroom, just because some of that scent is going to calm you down, then do it. I don't light up candles in my room anymore because I told you I live in a zoo. So it's just not possible. It's a fire hazard. Everything I do is a hazard. So I light my candle up in the toilet. And I sometimes walk past the toilet and then I open the door a little bit just to get a whiff of that comfort, that peace, that zen. And then I close the door. That helps. Just anything. Just try and make it a habit where you tell yourself that you're taking care of yourself. I have discussed this in a previous video. I used to meditate a lot and I used to be a very spiritually inclined person. I haven't been able to meditate at all since I had my kids. And the thing is, I still try every day. I fail every day, but I still try. And to me, that matters. The fact that I try, the fact that I get like a few seconds to myself to at least try to close my eyes and be present. That should help. Figure something out. You know yourself best. Figure something out. You need to be your best friend because no one else is going to be actually physically able to come in and do what you're doing. So you have to make it work. This, like I said, is going to turn into a series because I am really, really excited to share with you what I found out about cycle syncing. Oh my God, I wish I had known this like 10 years before. It's generally about women's health. It helps me now to understand what's happening in my body even more now that I'm a mom. And, everything is hormones, guys. Everything is hormones. But that's for the next video. I will see you next Sunday. For now, thank you very much for having joined me. I wish you all the best. If you're having trouble sleeping, just try to do what you can and get that rest and get all those hormones up, except the cortisol. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.